All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're diving into a love to visit London newsletter.
Ooh, fun.
And it's making me want to, just book a flight right now.
Really? What's caught your eye?
Well, it's got this whole mix of historic sites like, the classic touristy things, but also some
But
hidden gems. Even some places I think we've probably seen on screen in movies and shows.
the allure of on-screen locations.
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it, how a story can make us want to experience a place in real life?
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
And this newsletter, it's highlighting a day trip to Highclere Castle. The
Ah.
actual Downton Abbey.
Oh, how cool.
They're like, walk down the grand staircase just like Lady Mary and picture yourself, in that state dining room where Maggie Smith, she delivered all those
Oh, yeah.
witty Dowager Countess lines.
It's clever, tapping into that emotional connection people have with the show.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
does the reality ever really live up to that fantasy?
That's a good question. Like, it's one thing to visit a castle
Right.
for its history, but what happens when it becomes so tied to a fictional world? I don't know.
It adds a layer, doesn't it? You've got the history, the real significance, but then you've got this fictional narrative on top.
Yeah.
It creates a different kind of engagement with the place.
Yeah.
Maybe more emotional, I think.
I see what you mean. It's like experiencing two histories at once.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And then that brings up questions about preservation, too.
Oh, interesting.
How do you keep a historical site authentic,
Yeah.
but also cater to these fans they're coming for the on-screen magic,
Yeah, that's a tough balance. Reminds me of when I went to Alnwick Castle. That was Hogwarts
Oh, yeah, of course.
in the first two Harry Potter films.
I've always wanted to go there.
Oh, it's stunning. The castle itself is incredible.
Yeah.
But I don't know, they had like broomstick flying lessons for kids, and it all felt a little, I don't know, commercialized.
Yeah.
It made me wonder if it, I don't know, cheapened the experience a bit.
That's a valid point. It's a fine line to walk,
Yeah.
enhancing the visitor experience without exploiting the fame of the place.
Right. And getting back to Highclere, it's not just Downton Abbey, is it? I mean,
No, not at all. The castle has, what, centuries of history?
yeah.
Long before the show.
Exactly, yeah. And speaking of layers of history, the newsletter also suggests a visit to Southwark,
Yeah.
which has like a totally different vibe.
That's an interesting contrast, isn't it? We were just talking about these very carefully curated spaces like Highclere, representing a very specific period.
Yeah.
And Southwark is it's more like an organic evolution, spanning like over 1,000 years.
1,000 years. I mean, they specifically talk about Borough Market in the newsletter, and wow, I can only imagine
I know.
what stories those cobblestone streets could tell.
Absolutely, yeah. And then you've got Southwark Cathedral showing, centuries of religious and architectural evolution.
Wow.
And then, for something a bit more contemporary, the Tate Modern. It's housed in an old power station.
Talk about layers.
Right?
It's like a little mini London itself, right? That mix of old and new, grand and gritty.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And I bet it attracts a whole different type of traveler than Highclere.
Totally. If Highclere is for the, the history buff,
Yeah.
the Downton Abbey fanatic,
Right.
then Southwark, maybe that's more for the foodie, the art lover, someone who wants that authentic, less manicured experience.
I think so, yeah.
You know what I really like about this newsletter? It's making me realize there's not just one London experience.
That's so true.
It's a city of contrasts, and that's what makes it exciting, I think.
I agree. It's not one thing. It's more like a tapestry woven from, all these threads of history and culture and human experience. And each visitor gets to choose which threads they want to follow.
I love that. And this newsletter, it's giving us a whole bunch of different threads to pick from.
It is, yeah. And that's exactly what we're going to keep exploring.
But before we get into that, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at some of the other links from this newsletter. Think giant bikes, hidden gems in Liverpool, even an indoor rainforest in London.
Wow. Okay. I'm intrigued. Let's do it.
All right, we'll be right back. All right, so we talk stately homes, historic markets, but this newsletter, it's got some curveballs.
Like what?
Giant bikes.
Giant bikes. Okay.
Yeah, they call it Edmonton Unplugged.
Uh-huh.
You basically, you get on this massive bike with like 17 of your friends.
Wow.
And pedal around Edmonton, hitting all these cool spots, neighborhoods, breweries.
It's like a pub crawl, but with exercise.
Right. way less chance of getting lost, too.
True, true. And I like that it's so social, you know. You're experiencing the city with other people, not just seeing the sights.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of experiencing cities, I think Liverpool gets kind of pigeonholed as the Beatles city, but
Right.
this newsletter, it highlights some hidden gems that go beyond that.
I like that. It's good to remember that even the most famous places, they have more to offer.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, this next one, this is going straight on my must-visit list.
Oh, tell me.
An indoor rainforest
Really?
at the Barbican Conservatory in London.
A rainforest
Yeah,
in London.
yeah. Apparently it's this lush oasis, like tucked away inside the Barbican Center, which is like an arts complex.
It's interesting, isn't it, how even in the most urban environments, we still crave that connection to nature.
I know, right? Like it's this little escape from all the hustle and bustle.
Yeah, yeah. And to find that in an art center, I mean, that's cool, that juxtaposition.
Totally. And for all the bookworms out there, like me, the newsletter mentions the Notting Hill Travel Bookshop.
Oh, I've heard of them.
You know, the one with the bright blue door?
From the movie.
Yeah.
Notting Hill. Classic. It's amazing how a movie can make a regular place into a destination.
Right. The story and the place, they become inseparable. And speaking of things that go well together, how about a little gin with our travels?
Ooh, I like where this is
In
going.
the newsletter, it links to this guide to the best gins in the UK. Apparently, British gin is like having a moment.
Gin is definitely making a comeback. And all these craft distilleries popping up, it's not your grandma's gin anymore.
That's for sure. So bikes, books, rainforests, gin, quite the eclectic mix so far. What's grabbing you from this newsletter?
I think what's striking me is this theme of unexpected discovery.
Hmm.
You know, we started with the iconic like Highclere,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're looking at these hidden gems, these little surprises
Yeah.
that show a different side of London.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It's like the city's saying, look closer, there's more here than you think.
Exactly. And to kind of round out our London exploration, the newsletter reminds us about, you know, all the royal palaces and castles.
Oh, of course, can't forget about those.
Right. And they even provide a link to a visitor's guide, which is super helpful. Yeah, that's handy. Royal history is definitely a big draw for a lot of people visiting London.
For sure. Okay, let's switch gears a bit, talk food. The Yum section of the newsletter, it highlights two classic British dishes. Steak pie and steak and kidney pudding.
Those are some hearty dishes.
Right. They sound so comforting, so traditional.
Yeah, very, very British.
I gotta admit, not sure about the kidney part, but that steak pie, that sounds amazing, especially on a chilly London day.
Food can really transport you, can it?
Yeah.
I bet for some people, those dishes bring back memories, you know, family gatherings,
Yeah.
that sense of home.
Absolutely. And to feed our visual appetites, the newsletter includes this photo from social media of Earl's Court Underground Station.
Oh, the tube.
Yeah.
You can't talk about London without mentioning the underground.
I know, right? It's so iconic, so efficient.
Yeah.
And riding the tube, it's such a quintessential London experience.
It is. It's funny how even the everyday things become fascinating when you're traveling.
Yeah, like you're seeing it all with fresh eyes.
Totally. It's about noticing the details, you know, the things that make a place unique.
I love that. So, castles to markets, rainforests to underground stations. I mean, this newsletter has really given us a taste of London.
It has. It's been a journey of contrasts, that's for sure.
It really has. Before we start packing our bags, though, let's take a minute to think about everything we've talked about. When we come back, some final thoughts on this London deep dive.
All right, we're back, and I got to say I'm ready to book that flight.
I know, right? This newsletter really got me in the mood for London.
Me too. I think what stood out to me the most was just realizing there's no one way to experience London.
That's true. It really caters to everyone, doesn't it?
Yeah, like whatever you're into, history, food, art, adventure, you name it, London's got it.
Exactly. And you can combine all those things too, you know? Make your trip truly your own. Yeah, you could spend a week easy just hitting those big landmarks, those historic sites, but then you could spend another week just exploring, you know, finding those hidden restaurants, checking out the art scene.
Or just wandering around, getting lost in the city.
That's where the magic happens, right? Those unplanned moments, those little surprises.
I think so. Being open to new experiences, you know, letting the city lead you a little.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into London, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away?
I think it's that London is a city of endless possibilities. You can really create the experience you want there, whether you're drawn to the past or the present or maybe a mix of both.
I like that. Well said.
Yeah.
So, to our listener, dream big. Start planning your own London adventure. Imagine yourself walking through Highclere Castle, maybe enjoying a steak pie at a pub, or, who knows, pedaling around on a giant bike.
Yeah, let your imagination run wild. And remember, the journey really begins when you step off that plane and into the city. Keep your eyes open. Embrace the unexpected. You might discover a side of London you never knew existed.
That's great advice. Thanks for joining us for this London-inspired deep dive. Until next time, happy travels!